The royal family is facing a scandal like never before. And this time, it's Camilla's own son at the center of it. Shocking reports confirm that Tom Parker BS was caught bullying Princess Catherine during a private royal dinner, making cruel and targeted remarks that left her shaken. But he wasn't the only one facing consequences. Prince William, furious and protective, took the extraordinary step of stripping Camilla of a key royal title, sending a message, "The palace won't forget." What exactly happened behind those doors? And why has William finally had enough? The royal reckoning has begun. It was meant to be a quiet celebration, a summer evening marked by soft lighting, delicate wines, and warm conversation at Clarence's house on July 12, 2025. But just after 8:45 p.m., the room shifted. Tom Parker BS, son of Queen Camilla, made a remark that would soon echo through the palace halls. Speaking loud enough for nearby guests to hear, he scoffed, "She's not royal. She's a brand. The royal Barbie with a PR team." The comment, clearly aimed at Princess Catherine, cut deeper than anyone could have imagined. His words mocked her middle-class roots, which Catherine had always embraced with quiet dignity. Tom, who's held his food column for over 15 years, continued, allegedly saying she was all surface, no lineage. Several guests were stunned. Among them were a former New Zealand ambassador, a BBC correspondent, and even a Windsor family confidant, all of whom exchanged alarmed glances. One aide discreetly typed a record of the conversation, timestamped 9:07 p.m., and handed it off to palace staff. It wasn't banter, the aide later said. It was a deliberate hit. Princess Catherine, now 42, remained composed but noticeably quiet the rest of the evening. Witnesses said she left the reception precisely at 9:42 p.m., offering a soft smile but avoiding eye contact with Tom. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was self-preservation. Behind that calm exterior was a woman who had already endured years of scrutiny, endless comparisons to Diana, and constant pressure to be perfect. One friend whispered later, "Catherine has weathered storms, but this felt like a betrayal from within the gates." When the last guest exited at 10:15 p.m., staff huddled privately. A report was compiled by 10:30 p.m. and relayed to senior officials. The phrasing, they said, was sneering and cruel, targeted not just at Catherine but the entire image of the modern monarchy. "It wasn't just impolite," said a high-ranking aide. "It was a public insult against the future queen made under royal protection." The damage was already done. But this was only the beginning. What happened next turned a private insult into a public reckoning. By sunrise on July 13, the words had already reached Prince William, not by rumor, but through a direct report. His reaction? Shock, disbelief, and a rising anger not often seen in the heir to the throne. If Tom Parker BS thought his words would be brushed aside, he gravely misjudged the prince's loyalty. William's response would change everything, from family dynamics to royal titles. And it started with just 3 stunned words, "He said that." The insult heard around the palace began like any other morning for Prince William on July 13, 2025. Briefings, charity updates, and a scheduled visit to a youth initiative in South London. But everything changed just after 9:15 a.m. when an envelope marked "Urgent Internal Report" was handed to him by a senior aide. Inside was a typed transcript compiled from 3 eyewitness accounts detailing exactly what Tom Parker BS had said the night before at Clarence's house. The prince scanned the pages once, then a second time, before slowly sitting down. According to insiders, William asked aloud 3 times, "He said that in public about my wife." Each repetition was slower, heavier. The aide, who had worked beside him for over 7 years, said she had never seen him this visibly shaken. The document confirmed that Tom had used the words "royal Barbie," "middle-class poser," and accused Princess Catherine of using image to hide inadequacy. It wasn't just inappropriate, it was a direct assault on the integrity of the future Queen of England and, by extension, on William himself. What struck William most was the intention behind it. This wasn't a careless joke or a drunken slip. The report described the tone as cold, calculating, and meant to wound, and it happened in front of at least 18 guests, including a U.S. diplomat, 2 archbishops, and senior members of the Foreign Office. The embarrassment wasn't just personal, it was diplomatic. He brought shame not just to Catherine, but to the entire royal image we've spent decades rebuilding, said one close staffer. William sat in silence for 14 full minutes, processing the betrayal. That afternoon, he cancelled his next 2 appointments and called a closed-door meeting with his legal advisor and private secretary. Notes from that meeting, now referred to internally as the 137 Command Brief, outlined possible steps. At 3:42 p.m., he reportedly told his staff, this can't be brushed off. My wife will not be disrespected under this roof. For the heir to the throne, this wasn't just family drama. It was a challenge to the values he and Catherine had spent nearly 20 years trying to embody: duty, grace, and strength under pressure. As William quietly began taking control behind palace walls, Princess Catherine kept her pain hidden from the world. She smiled through engagements, waved to photographers, and fulfilled her duties just as she always had. But inside, the wounds were fresh. And while she begged William to avoid escalation, her calm only fueled his fury. What no one saw was how deeply this moment hurt her, not just as a royal, but as a woman who had always tried to belong. The palace had heard the insult, but only Catherine felt the bruise. Catherine's quiet pain behind the smile. The day after the scandal, July 14, 2025, Princess Catherine appeared at St. Mary's Children's Hospice in Reading just before 11 a.m. Cameras captured her stepping out of the car smiling warmly, wearing a soft cornflower blue dress and pearls once gifted by Queen Elizabeth II in 2011. From the outside, she looked every bit the royal the public adored. But those closest to her knew the truth. Behind her signature grace was a woman deeply wounded. Tom Parker BS's remarks hadn't just embarrassed her, they had reopened emotional scars from her early years in the royal spotlight. For years, Catherine had been called names: commoner, weighty Katie, too perfect. But hearing such cruelty from someone inside the family cut differently. According to a senior aide who has worked with her for over 12 years, she kept her composure for the cameras but barely spoke during the car ride back to Kensington Palace. Her silence spoke volumes. That night, at exactly 8:17 p.m., she reportedly told her private secretary, "I won't be the reason this family fractures. Please don't let William go to war over me." Even in pain, she was protecting the monarchy, just as she always had. William, however, saw her silence as suffering. Friends of the couple say that by July 15, he was more resolute than ever to hold someone accountable, not just for the words, but for the years of subtle jabs and social coldness Catherine had endured. He recalled a private incident in 2019 when Camilla allegedly referred to Catherine as too polished to be trusted. Catherine had brushed it off. But now, combined with Tom's remarks, those small humiliations had formed a pattern. William confided to a friend that evening, "She's carried this crown with more dignity than anyone else in that house." Behind closed doors, Catherine remained calm but emotionally drained. Her schedule for the next 48 hours was cleared. She spent most of her time in the garden of Adelaide Cottage, their private Windsor home, reading and walking with their dog, Orla. Insiders say she declined several requests from senior aides to issue a response. She wanted to stay above it all, one said. But that didn't mean she wasn't hurting. By July 17, the palace press team had received over 4,000 emails from the public, most of them offering support for Catherine, praising her for her poise and condemning Tom's remarks. The world was watching and choosing sides. While Catherine remained the picture of grace, Prince William's resolve only hardened. By July 18, he had reached a breaking point. For him, this wasn't just about one insult, it was about years of quiet disrespect tolerated for the sake of unity. But not anymore. A private meeting with his father, King Charles, was scheduled for that week. William wasn't coming to talk. He was coming to draw a line. And in that meeting, he would issue a demand that could shake the monarchy at its core. The final straw. On July 19, 2025, at exactly 10 a.m., Prince William arrived at Buckingham Palace for a closed-door meeting with King Charles III. No press, no aides, just father and son in the Queen's private drawing room, a space once used by Queen Elizabeth II herself for serious family talks. In William's hand was a printed transcript, 3 pages, bolded excerpts, all from the Clarence House reception. As he handed it to the king, he spoke clearly and without emotion, "If she can't control her household, she can't carry a crown." The words hit like a thunderclap. Charles read the pages slowly. According to insiders, the king blinked several times, sighed, and said, "I was told it was taken out of context." William cut in, "There is no context where you insult the mother of the future queen." Over the course of 72 minutes, the two clashed over Camilla's role, Tom Parker BS's behavior, and the ongoing fracture growing between the Wales and Queen consort households. William pointed out the long timeline, it's been over 10 years of backhanded remarks and double standards, and warned that silence would no longer be seen as neutrality, but complicity. William issued his ultimatum just after 11:12 a.m. He would not support Camilla's presence at future ceremonial events unless action was taken. That included trooping the colour, state banquets, and upcoming appearances with foreign dignitaries from France, Germany, and Canada. More than symbolic, these were the very appearances that reinforced Camilla's public role as queen consort. His final demand? That Camilla's ceremonial titles be stripped, quietly but officially, from all palace releases and communications. The public loves Catherine, he said. They see who she is. If we protect someone who mocks her, we betray everything we stand for. Charles, stunned, reportedly asked for 48 hours to consider the consequences. But for William, the matter was settled. As he left the palace at 12:06 p.m., staff noticed his face, calm, but cold. This was not a man acting out of anger. It was a future king defending not just his wife, but the moral tone of the monarchy itself. One senior royal aide, briefed later that day, summed it up best: the future of the crown isn't about protocol anymore. It's about character, and William just changed the rules. Camilla's defiance backfires. By July 21st, the tension inside palace walls had reached a breaking point. Camilla had heard William's demands, and her response was swift, proud, and deeply defiant. She refused to apologize. She dismissed the transcript, and worse, she defended Tom's remarks as light teasing. But that defense would prove to be her biggest mistake. Because in her refusal to show humility, Camilla ignited a storm of backlash, not just from the public, but from the monarchy itself. When Camilla received word of Prince William's demand on the evening of July 21, 2025, she was attending a private dinner at Highgrove House, seated beside a former French ambassador and a 2023 Nobel laureate. As the message was discreetly delivered to her at 8:46 p.m., witnesses say she raised an eyebrow and muttered, "Oh, for heaven's sake." Instead of shock or regret, she was dismissive. Her reply to aides came just after 9:10 p.m., it was harmless banter. Everyone's too sensitive these days. But that single sentence would cost her more than she could ever imagine. The following morning, July 22nd, Camilla refused a palace request to issue a private apology to Catherine. She insisted that Tom's remarks were taken out of context and that Kate knows it wasn't meant cruelly. She also declined a drafted public statement prepared by communications staff. By 11:30 a.m., several senior aides began quietly distancing themselves from her team. One former press advisor who'd served during the 2022 Platinum Jubilee said, "There's a difference between standing by family and standing by arrogance." Camilla's unwillingness to acknowledge the damage had created an internal fracture that couldn't be patched with protocol. Inside the palace, the tone changed sharply. By July 23, staff began updating internal calendars. Camilla's name was quietly removed from two upcoming royal events: the UN Peace Summit in Geneva and a scheduled appearance at Balmoral Castle's Highland Games in early August 2025. Behind the scenes, senior royals and advisors from both Clarence House and Kensington Palace met in what one insider dubbed the dignity sessions, designed to salvage the monarchy's image. "You can't ignore the optics," one strategist noted. "The woman mocked the future queen and acted like it was nothing. That's not banter. That's betrayal." Charles, now 76, remained painfully silent. While he had once relied on Camilla as his most trusted confidant, he now found himself between his son, the future king, and the wife who stood accused of shielding cruelty. At a brief meeting on July 24, he reportedly told his closest aide, "I cannot defend what I don't understand." His refusal to intervene was seen by William as confirmation. The monarch would not act, so the heir must. That decision was about to reshape the royal stage in a way no one, least of all Camilla, had expected. The decree. By July 25, the palace was no longer whispering. It was moving. Quiet memos turned into signed directives. Camilla's public-facing role was being stripped away, one appearance, one title, one line of text at a time. The woman once crowned queen consort during the 2023 coronation was about to see that crown dimmed, not by public scandal, but by private consequence. And at the center of it all stood Prince William, ready to make a decision that would reverberate through royal history. The era of quiet tolerance was over. On the morning of July 26, 2025, the Royal Communications team began issuing subtle but significant changes. Camilla's name was omitted from the official itinerary for the upcoming Trooping the Colour scheduled for September 2025. Her title, once listed as Queen Consort Camilla, was reduced to simply Her Majesty Camilla in the court circular. The change, while quiet, was unmistakable. Insiders confirmed that the decision had come directly from Prince William, using his authority as Prince of Wales and future head of the royal household. At precisely 2 p.m., a formal internal directive was signed. Camilla would no longer represent the crown at state functions, diplomatic ceremonies, or military honors. Her name was pulled from planning documents for 3 key engagements, including the 2025 Commonwealth Forum, a diplomatic tour of Singapore, and the highly anticipated Balmoral family retreat. One royal source explained the shift. Her role is now symbolic, ceremonial at best. She holds no real influence moving forward. William's decree wasn't revenge. It was a restructuring, an effort to align the monarchy with values the public could respect again. The most striking move came later that evening when the official royal website, viewed by over 8 million visitors monthly, underwent a silent update. In the line of royal representation section, Catherine's image was moved directly beside King Charles, while Camilla's was relocated to a separate subpage marked Spouse of the Sovereign. The wording removed any active role, no mention of Queen in public service, no titles tied to diplomatic work, and most notably, no reference to her as a working royal. For the public, it was subtle. For the palace, it was seismic. As Camilla learned of the changes that night at 7:52 p.m., sources say she sat in stunned silence in the garden of Clarence House. The woman once crowned beside her husband in the grand halls of Westminster Abbey in May 2023 had just been gently, but unmistakably, sidelined. The titles were never the problem, a senior aide reflected. The problem was pretending cruelty could sit next to a crown. William's actions didn't just protect Catherine, they redefined royal accountability. For the first time in decades, a royal decree had been issued not to elevate, but to remove. Tom Parker BS faces public wrath. The news didn't stay behind palace gates for long. By July 27, royal correspondents began connecting the dots: title removals, sudden absence from events, online edits. But while Camilla retreated, someone else was about to face the fury of the public square, her son. The backlash against Tom Parker BS was swift and brutal. What had been said in jest was now seen as calculated cruelty against a beloved future queen, and the court of public opinion was just getting started. By the early hours of July 28, 2025, the press had the story, and they had receipts. A leaked palace report confirmed what many suspected: Tom Parker BS had insulted Princess Catherine with calculated cruelty. Headlines exploded across the Times, Sky News, and even the New York Times. Within 12 hours, "I'd apologize to Catherine and who do you think you are?" were trending in 32 countries. His carefully curated career as a respected food critic and author of 4 cookbooks evaporated almost overnight. Speaking engagements scheduled for Edinburgh, Toronto, and Cape Town were quietly cancelled by July 30. A major publishing house in London, once in talks to offer him a $250,000 deal for a wine memoir, pulled out. And by August 1, the television network behind his recurring appearances on MasterChef UK released a short but direct statement: "We will not be working with Mr. Parker BS at this time." The media didn't mince words either. Labels like entitled, tone deaf, and spoiled splashed across morning front pages. Tom, now 49, reportedly retreated to a private estate near Wiltshire, where paparazzi captured photos of him looking disheveled, wearing a hoodie, and avoiding cameras. Friends say he was shocked by the reaction, insisting to those around him that the remark had been misunderstood. But the public wasn't buying it. Even past interviews, like one from 2018 where he called royal life a circus for well-dressed actors, were being recirculated. His brand had officially collapsed. And as one media analyst told BBC Radio 4, Tom forgot one rule: never mock the woman the world adores. The final blow came from within his own circles. A source close to the Camilla household revealed that multiple family members had privately urged Tom to apologize, not just to Catherine, but to William directly. He refused. He believed he was being unfairly villainized, the source explained. But perception is reality. By August 3, major royal commentators began calling for him to step away from public life entirely. Even Queen Camilla, under enormous pressure, had reportedly gone silent. When the people choose sides, one palace aide said, they rarely choose the one who sneers. Catherine rises with dignity and strength. While Tom faded into scandal, Catherine did the unthinkable: she carried on. No statements, no public jabs, just one carefully planned appearance at a children's hospital in Oxford on August 4. The woman mocked as Royal Barbie stood surrounded by real families, real lives, and real hope. And when cameras caught the brooch on her lapel, once worn by Princess Diana, the message was crystal clear: Catherine didn't need revenge. She had something far more powerful: the love of the people. On August 4, 2025, just 1 week after the scandal broke, Princess Catherine made her first public appearance since the storm. She arrived at St. George's Children's Hospital in Oxford at 11:06 a.m., stepping from her car with her usual warmth. But there was something more, a quiet power radiated from her presence. She wore a soft grey coat dress, her hair pulled back neatly, and pinned to her lapel was the sapphire crescent brooch once worn by Princess Diana in 1991. The message was unspoken but unmistakable: legacy endures. Dozens of reporters were gathered outside, but Catherine never flinched. She spent over 90 minutes with young patients, laughing, kneeling down at eye level, asking thoughtful questions. At one point, she comforted a 5-year-old boy with leukemia and handed him a small plush lion from her own handbag. The moment went viral within hours, reposted on social media over 12 million times. One viewer wrote, "She's what a queen looks like, even before she wears the crown." Catherine didn't need a statement. Her actions spoke volumes. Inside palace walls, senior staff were stunned by the public's response. Over 6,000 letters were delivered to Kensington Palace in just 48 hours, most praising her grace, many signed by mothers, daughters, and teachers who called her an example to girls everywhere. Even longtime critics of the monarchy admitted her resilience had struck a chord. While others hide behind titles, said a veteran royal correspondent from ITV, Catherine leads with heart. In a monarchy often accused of being out of touch, she had become its beating pulse. And yet, Catherine never once addressed the scandal. No press conference, no subtle shade, no retaliation. When asked by a journalist on the hospital steps if she had any comment on recent headlines, she simply smiled and said, "Today's about the children." That one line became the quote of the day, and solidified her public image not as a victim, but as a woman of strength, composure, and unshakable dignity. In the eyes of millions, Catherine had risen, not above scandal, but through it. The aftermath. In the aftermath of the scandal, one truth is clear: the public has chosen their royals. Not titles, not tradition, but integrity. Camilla's silence spoke volumes, and Tom Parker BS's arrogance cost them everything. Meanwhile, Princess Catherine, calm and radiant, showed the world what real royalty looks like: grace under fire. And Prince William? He proved he's not just the heir, but a protector, a leader, and a man who puts family before protocol. Behind palace walls, a quiet shift has taken hold. Camilla may still be queen consort in name, but she no longer holds influence. The heart of the monarchy now beats from Kensington Palace, where love, loyalty, and dignity lead the way. This wasn't just about a title. It was about what the crown stands for in 2025. And thanks to William and Catherine, it now stands on stronger, purer ground than ever before.